Hi, I'm John Schroeder, and welcome to another Casey Clips video. Our topic today is one that has brought down some of the most powerful, even spiritual people in the world. I'm speaking of our sexuality and how we express it. As with any choice we make, the correctness for our sexual practices comes down to our motivations, be they loving or selfish. Let's look at God's creation through the lens of sexual behavior to help discern what moral issues come from God and which ones come from our own self-imposed moral code. From a biological perspective, God made the sexual act almost irresistible so that life would naturally propagate itself on the earth. All life forms are meant to procreate, and our enjoyment of the sexual act ensures that life will continue. From that, I surmise that sex was intended to be a gift from God in both enjoyment and in expanding creation. But what about us, we souls who were not initially intended to populate the earth in human form? Our insistence, long ago, to insert our minds into physical forms was not what God intended for us. We are God's companions and co-creators, but we always have free will. And much like an alcoholic prefers the limited thinking and sad existence of constantly succumbing to their addiction, we souls willingly and repeatedly entrap ourselves into human form. Why? Because we decided to return to Earth so often that we forgot that there is anywhere else we can go. A big reason for our addiction to living in human form is sex. Casey's readings tell us that God's plan was for sex to be a perfect expression of love and for creating new life. Only too often, we humans pursue sexual partners for our own gratification without regard for the other person's well-being, emotional feelings, or even getting their permission. Anytime we lose sight of the beauty that God intended to be expressed in the sex act, we are misusing the gift our Creator intended. So what constitutes selfishness or sin when it comes to sex? Let's start with premarital sex, as in sex outside of marriage. Since humans predated the custom to get married, it seems likely that marriage, while condoned by God when it comes out of a loving commitment between two people, was not a law handed down from above. As long as we express our love for each other through the sex act, it doesn't matter if we are married or not. What about sex with a person of the same gender? While there can be health consequences that same-sex couples should avoid, the same is true of male-female couplings as well. The ironic part of the biblical argument against homosexuality is that we souls have no gender. In other words, we may temporarily be human males or females while coupling, but the souls consenting to having sex together in human form are genderless. That means that in a very real sense, all sex couplings are homosexual, or perhaps better stated, unisexual. Again, the gift or sin in the choices we make in sexual partners comes down to our motivation for being with them. Is it out of love, or the opposite, being a lustful desire where we are looking for gratification without having deep feelings for the other person? Another frequently asked question concerns the right age a person should be to engage in sex. That's a trickier question since it truly varies with each individual. Clearly, we should not indulge in sexual behavior until we reach adulthood and can make an informed choice. What makes it tricky is that regardless of where you set that minimum age, there will always be those who will ignore it. Better parenting of our children addresses this concern more successfully than any secular law. What about incest? This question is much easier to answer now that our gene pool has evolved away from its early perfection. No one wants to bring a genetically challenged child into the world, and so that speaks for itself. However, even if the potential health of the child were not an issue, sex is intended to be an intimate act for couples. Since close relatives are not intended to form families together, the answer is to find your soulmate in the larger gene pool outside of your immediate human family. And how should we view the act of masturbation? Since the body and mind work together to allow nocturnal emissions, it would seem that such things are a part of God's plan to regulate a better balance of our body systems. Masturbation only becomes a sin when we use it for selfish gratification. How do you know when you have crossed this line? When the act becomes an obsession, addiction, or it is done at inappropriate times. A final question posed to me has to do with Jesus' sexuality. Was Jesus a virgin for his entire human life? It seems likely, given why he came into the earth in the first place. The Casey readings say that he came to show us how to treat everyone, not just family members. And he knew beforehand that he would not be around long enough to raise a family. But what about the sexual urges within him? To think that a soul, having attained the Christ consciousness, could not spiritualize the animal instincts of the body doesn't give God very much control over his own creation. The same soul who could walk on water, heal all manner of ailments, including raising people from the dead, could definitely spiritually balance the body's sexual urges without having to involve others in the process, and he would still remain completely happy. The bottom line is this: sex, in and of itself, was intended to be a gift from God that promotes good feelings while enhancing all of creation. Our sex acts become sinful when we use them solely for gratification, or when we do so without love for the other person. That's it for this edition of Casey Clips. If you have questions regarding a spiritual concept or moral issue, please don't hesitate to ask. As you just saw here, there is no one correct answer, but we can discern what we feel is right for us when we make choices based on what we truly believe. Until next time, remember that God loves you with an everlasting love.